What's up, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Goal Line Dynasty. We are back. I know it's been a little over a week since we've posted, but as you can see by my background, I have moved and been busy, so we didn't get to record for the last week or so. Today, we're going to get into some sell-high wide receivers for you guys, but before we start that video, Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good. I picked three guys that you really like, and I would rather ship off my team for similarly valued assets as far as keep trade cut says, and I'm excited to argue with you today.
Yeah, well, if it makes you feel better, one of your guys, one guy that I know you're really high on is on my sell high list as well, and it's not necessarily a hill I'm willing to die on, but I'll kind of get into that once that player comes out. But I'm a gentleman, so I'll let you go first. So, Tyler, who is your first sell high wide receiver this offseason?
My first guy is Cooper Kupp. He right now is still, even coming off of an injury, is listed as the wide receiver 16, even though he's 30 years old. I am not necessarily trying to bank on a player's injury being too significant to deal with, but I mean, he is 30 years old, and I'm looking to ship those guys anyways. And just the fact that I would rather have a lot of guys that are in the similar tier over him. I would rather tier up to Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill than I would rather pay to eliminate the risk with something like a late second round pick, an early third round pick, if that can let me tier up. Or even, it says Devontae Adams is under Cooper Kupp as far as these rankings go, and I would rather have him in that case. The 23 mid first, I'd take any mid first over Cooper Kupp in this scenario. But yeah, that's just where I'm at. I've never really been huge on Cooper Kupp. Matt Stafford's getting old, and I mean, we know he doesn't have long. So regardless, I'm just getting Cooper Kupp off my roster. He's not in as good a situation as any of the other guys there, so I'm going to pay to get him out of there.
I don't disagree with selling Cooper Kupp, right? Like you said, I mean, Stafford, at this point, he's not going to retire. I feel like he would have done a justice for the Rams and told them this information by now. So I would definitely assume that Stafford's going to be with the team in 2023, which obviously is a help to Cooper Kupp. But Cooper Kupp's coming off that injury. He's going to be 30 in like 2 months, which is, not the end of the world for a fantasy wide receiver, but with the kind of usage that he has had, I can't imagine he has more than maybe 2 seasons max left before he really sees a steep decline in his production. I'm perfectly fine with selling off Cooper Kupp right now if you get the right price. So the current value on keep trade cut is either the 106 or 107 in Superflex leagues. And I think I agree with that. I would probably, unless I'm like firmly contending, I would sell Cooper Kupp for the 106 or even use Cooper Kupp as the bargaining piece. Cooper Kupp plus 112 equals 102 or 101, you never know. So I'm perfectly fine with that. If you're doing a pick straight up and you can get 106 or better, I mean, think about it. There are 6 really solid options in Superflex rookie drafts right now, right? You have your 3 quarterbacks, you have Bijan Robinson, you have Gibbs, and you have JSN. If you can lock down one of those 6 guys for a 30-year-old wide receiver in Cooper Kupp, unless you're like really top 2, top 3 in your league and you're competing and Cooper Kupp's going to set you over the edge, I'd probably take that deal in most scenarios.
Yeah, easily. I'm definitely hitting the reset button off Cooper Kupp for any of those prospects, and any of them will outlast him, even as just any piece on my roster. And there's no real guarantee that he's going to come back and be productive. I don't really love this Rams offense, and he just doesn't have much time left. And all of these assets, I'd rather have over him.
I will say this about Cooper Kupp: I would probably wait to move off of him maybe another couple of months, because I mean, think about it. Fast forward to June, we're less than a month away from training camp at that point. Cooper Kupp is going to be recovered in time for the training camp as far as, all reports go. And as soon as those reports really start kind of hitting the mainstream and people realize, shit, Cooper Kupp's back, like big deal, he might actually up a little bit in trade value. But with that being said, obviously your rookie draft will have probably already happened. So then you would be making deals for predictive picks in the 2024 draft. So kind of a delicate balance, but I think Cooper Kupp's value is going to go up currently from where it is right now. But I don't think it's going to really move the needle significantly, right? Like he's probably not going to get much better than the wide receiver 16 on KTC at this point. So I like calling him a sell high at the moment. My first guy here, I know you're going to disagree with, and I really want to bring him up just because I have to. Chris Olave. So the thing with Chris Olave is I don't want to say we've seen his ceiling already, but I also, I don't really expect a significant gain out of him. He was the wide receiver 25 last year. He did miss 2 games. So, in terms of points per game, he was actually wide receiver 27. So kind of moves down a little bit. The thing with Chris Olave, he's already the wide receiver 8 overall on Keep Trade Cut. And he is borderline untouchable in a lot of leagues out there right now. I think the value is super inflated, right? He doesn't have the athletic profile that Drake London has. While he is a good route runner, he doesn't have the same kind of finesse upside that a guy like Garrett Wilson has. And Olave is firmly in between those two guys. I don't think he should be. I really don't think he should be. He kind of reminds me, maybe not the player itself, but in terms of the production and what I'm expecting out of him, I'm kind of seeing a DJ Moore guy, right? Who's going to consistently be maybe a top 15 wide receiver at best, but probably somewhere between wide receiver 18 and wide receiver 24 on a yearly basis. Now, obviously, there's a spot on every single roster for a guy like that. There's nothing wrong with going out and acquiring a guy like that. But at the current price of the wide receiver 8 overall in Dynasty, it's just entirely too rich for my blood. My main reason why I'm bringing him up as a sell high, though, is because I recently received an offer in a 16-team Superflex league, and it's 104 and 111 for Chris Olave. Now, ultimately, I did turn that down just because my team is – I don't need a quarterback, or I do need a quarterback, but I already have 101 and 102, so I'm getting Bijan and Bryce Young, A-Rich, whoever I want at that 102. It doesn't matter. But – the fact of the matter is, if you can fetch 104 and 111, or according to Keep Trade Cut, in a 1-for-1, you could get 102 for Chris Olave. I just have to bring this up because if I'm a quarterback needy team, I am 110% trading Chris Olave straight up for my choice of rookie quarterback this year. So that's why I have him listed as a sell high. I don't think he offers top 10 wide receiver upside, and the price is just it's a good time to sell.
If I'm really needy of a quarterback, I guess, but I mean, in most cases, I'm chasing young wide receivers, and there's not really that many that I'm chasing over Chris Olave. I mean, you can name the obvious handful, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't even know if I'd rather have Waddle over. Yeah, I guess I'd probably have to take Waddle over Olave. But I mean, that's where it really starts to draw the line. I mean, I'd rather have Garrett Wilson over him, but I don't know really, like, where are you trying to tear down to, or like where are you trying to move him? What trades are you looking to make if you have Chris Olave other than going after that rookie pick into quarterbacks?
I mean, it really depends. I haven't done a lot of exploring as part of a tear down, but for example, one thing that I can think of is, how high I am on Jameson Williams, right? So if you were to tear down from Chris Olave to Jameson Williams, given that we haven't seen any sort of production out of Jameson Williams, I genuinely think that you could get either a late first or early second round pick on top of Jameson Williams for Chris Olave because of where he's valued right now. And there's definitely going to be a risk associated with that, right? Because you're essentially taking 2 rookies over Chris Olave because Jameson Williams' rookie season should not count, right? Like we're finally going to see what he can actually do going into 2023. But if I can tear down from Olave to a guy in that Jameson Williams tier and add on a late first, second, something like that, depending on my team composition, that's definitely something I'm like willing to explore.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty open to most of the stuff that you said. I mean, I think that Derek Carr is also such a massive upgrade, and that I don't know. I think he's just only going to get better. I mean, he was a huge part of that offense, and he's so young. I don't really want to get Chris Olave off my ass. So I think he only gets better. I think there's a lot of other wide receivers that are in that tier that are kind of capped in their production right now, that are trapped in roles that they're not the number one receiver on their team, and Chris Olave is. And I don't know. I'm just taking him over a lot of those guys.
Well, before I let you go on with your pick or your next sell high wide receiver, I know you're a massive fan of JSN, right? Who isn't at this point? But I got offered the 104 and the 111 in that 16 teamer, which is essentially JSN plus an additional guy at 111, right? Is that enough for you? Like, are you counting that as a good enough tier down from Olave, or is that not enough to even get you wondering what that trade's going to be like?
The 104 and the 111, I definitely would have to do. Yeah. I would definitely take JSN plus another late first round pick over Chris Olave.
See, so it exists. It exists. But anyway, I'll let you go on with your second sell high wide receiver here.
So my next guy here is DJ Moore. I think that just because he's going to be attached to Justin Fields and just because Justin Fields is a pretty good fantasy quarterback, doesn't necessarily mean that DJ Moore is going to be great. I really don't want any part of that Chicago Bears passing offense. And I mean, I'm seeing him go for, mid first round picks, the 107 here on DLF, like Trade Finder here. I see him going for a first plus a second, like in a future first and second. Yeah, I'm taking all of everything I'm looking at. Like there's nothing that I want to hold DJ Moore for. I see Ramondre the 107. Like this is I think it's a pretty good time to sell DJ Moore. I don't expect him to be much better than he is. The Bears offense last year was so terrible as far as passing volume went that I'm shipping him for all of these. I don't think you're going to be able to get a first round pick for him in the season. I don't think he's going to be a guy that people are chasing after because he's going to start, producing monster numbers and scoring a bunch of touchdowns.
I don't disagree. I love DJ Moore. Being a Panthers fan, I've always loved DJ Moore. I'll always root for him. We'll never root for the Bears because their fans have just been unbearable on social media since the whole trade went down. But the only counterpoint that I would offer as to why DJ Moore could see good volume this year is look at AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, right? I'm not saying Justin Fields is Jalen Hurts, and I'm not saying that DJ Moore is AJ Brown, but everybody thought this time last year, right? That trade went down. Tennessee sent AJ Brown to Philly. And my initial reaction as someone who has a lot of shares of AJ Brown is shit, this sucks, right? Because I didn't think the Eagles had the right passing offense. I didn't think they were going to have that volume enough to support AJ Brown as the top 5 wide receiver that we know he can be. But they bring in AJ Brown. Dallas Goedert gets healthy. Devonta Smith kind of breaks out. Suddenly, this offense is passing and firing on all cylinders. I think bringing DJ Moore in, getting Darnell Mooney healthy, having Cole Kmet after his, kind of breakout sophomore season there, I think it's going to open up a lot of possibilities for the Chicago offense. And I will say, I think DJ Moore is going to, at the very least, be able to match his production that he saw in Carolina this past year. Now, granted, this past year was his worst statistical year, right? He didn't have 1,000 yards. I think he only had, 4 or 5 touchdowns, like not a big deal. But I do think maybe wide receiver 25 to 32 in that range is probably his floor. With that being said, if he is only a floor player and you can get the 106 or 107, like you mentioned, I probably would do that. And I probably will pull the trigger if that gets offered to me. I just think he's more of a, he's a safe guy. He's a safe guy, and I'm not really looking to sell him. But if an offer came through 106 or 107 or some sort of equivalent, I think I would take that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. You can find, first for him, future first. I definitely reset. I mean, next year's receiver class is actually probably deeper than this year's, and I'm comfortable, finding another receiver in another situation other than DJ Moore at any point this year.
The only thing with DJ Moore is it's like, is he the floor play, or are we finally going to see him break out, right? Like the Chicago Bears just did everything that they possibly could to get DJ Moore on this team. That was like the one missing piece that they wanted in this trade. Them and Carolina went back and forth until eventually Carolina gave in and got them DJ Moore. It's just, there is a possibility for DJ Moore to have an improved fantasy value, but I don't think he has the same ceiling as a guy like AJ Brown, right? Like I think you and I can both agree there's probably no possibility of DJ Moore finishing as a top 12 wide receiver in Chicago in 2023.
No, I don't believe so at all. I mean, I think 15 would be his ceiling, and I guess he's ranked at what, wide receiver 23. And he's only 26 years old. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like DJ Moore to begin with, and him going to Chicago is not any really bit of an upgrade for me in terms of what he's going to see in the passing game.
Yeah, it's tough. I will say, if you can't get at least 106 for him, I would do what you just said, right? And try to go for a 2024 pick maybe, because that class, in my opinion, is definitely deeper than this 2023 class. 107, you're missing out on Gibbs, Bijan, JSN, and those top three quarterbacks. So essentially, if you're trading DJ Moore for 107 or later, that's what Will Levis, Michael Mayer, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zach Charbonnet. And I'm probably not trading DJ Moore straight up for any of those guys. But get a 24 first plus something additional while the going is, still hot on DJ Moore.
Well, the thing is, I probably would take Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston over him. They're going to be in a better situation than him, I think. They're probably going to have a better quarterback than him. Jordan Addison, where else are they going to go? They're going to go to, San Diego could draft a receiver. It just looks like they're drafting receivers in a lot of mock drafts. The Ravens, all these places are much better than what DJ Moore is in. So I think they're similar skill sets.
I love that you called them San Diego. I haven't heard them called San Diego in years, man. You're aging yourself there.
That's how tired I am. Jeez. Wow.
Well, we'll move on to my wide receiver 2 here, or I should say my second sell high wide receiver. It's going to come to a surprise to absolutely no one except for one particular commenter on our YouTube here who is a big fan of Christian Watson. I'm selling Christian Watson every which way that I possibly can. He is worth more than DJ Moore, according to Keep Trade Cut. He's already 20 old, which not that old, but all things considered, DJ Moore, for example, has played in 4 or 5 seasons, something like that, 4 seasons in the NFL, and he's only 26. Christian Watson has played in 1, and he's 24. So, the youth isn't really an argument for holding on to Christian Watson. He's losing Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay is a very popular landing spot for JSN or for QJ or for Jordan Addison. Green Bay has mocked a first-round wide receiver in a lot of NFL mocks that I've seen. If they draft a first-round wide receiver, Christian Watson becomes nothing more than their red zone guy, and maybe he's still going to have his for sure, but he's not going to return value as a top 16 dynasty asset. It's just not going to happen. If you look at the games where he and Romeo Doubs is not really that player, right? He's not bad. He definitely had a lot of hype, but he's not amazing. He shouldn't be stealing looks from any sort of legitimate elite talent in the NFL. Christian Watson had 1 out of all of the games he played, and he had 1 solid game where Romeo Doubs was also on the field. His big 4-game streak where he really broke out, had 100 yards here, had 2 touchdowns here, had this, had that. Romeo Doubs was out all 4 of that stretch where he was really going in there. So I don't know. I think Watson, I'm a firm believer that Watson was just a beneficiary of being the main receiver available, and it kind of inflated his value. I think he's an athletic freak, And I said that this time last year for the draft process, but I was not high on him at all coming in as a rookie, even before we knew that he was going to Green Bay, because just because you're a freak athlete doesn't mean you're going to be a good NFL player. And take away 3 or 4 broken plays from his rookie year, and we're not even talking about him as even a top 25 wide receiver. So Christian Watson, I'm selling. If I can get the 108, 109, I'm pulling that trigger all day. I've even gone on the record in previous videos saying I would go as maybe the 202 or 203 on Christian Watson, and I firmly stand by that. I wouldn't do that because I'm losing value there, but yeah, I'm selling him high because I don't think he's going to return any sort of good production with Jordan Love, especially if Green Bay does address their wide receiver room, and I really think they will.
Yeah, I mean, if I see a couple of really good games out of Christian Watson early on in the season, like my opinion will probably change a lot. But in a lot of these trades that I'm seeing around here, he's going for like 2024 first, so it could be random. But yeah, like I see pretty much a lot of just re-rolls on Christian Watson. Are you doing that? Are you just taking random 24 first for him? I mean, the earliest I'm seeing is like 108, 109, just like you said. So what are you thinking about a random 24 first?
I would take a random 2024 first. If somebody offered me a random 2024 first right now, even if I think that it's going to be a late first, I'm looking at this team, I think they're going to be really good, I'm probably still taking that because there's a lot of depth in that 2024 class, especially in Superflex leagues. It's going to go as deep as, I would say, somewhere between 106 and 108. We're going to be still looking at, granted, the quarterbacks are going to be like the S tier of the class, but tier A is going to be somewhere between like 103 and 107 or 108. So if I even have a chance of getting into the top 8 picks for Christian Watson in 2024, I'm taking that.
Are you doing Christian Watson and Michael Pittman for CeeDee Lamb?
Yes, I would because in my mind, right, like if I'm only valuing Christian Watson personally as like the 202 or 203, and I can add the 202 on top of Michael Pittman to get me CeeDee Lamb, a top 4 or top 3, depending on who you are, wide receiver for Dynasty, 1,000%. Even if I'm taking a hit to depth by trading away both Pittman and Watson, but CeeDee Lamb is that elite option that you're not ever going to touch with Christian Watson or Michael Pittman. So yeah, I would take that deal all day.
All right, so I think I know your answer to my next question. I think you're taking Mark Andrews over Christian Watson straight up, correct?
Easily. Well, I mean, you know how high I am on Mark Andrews. Even after the down year that we saw in 2022, he's going to be perfectly fine. I will say, I'm nervous because Lamar Jackson's probably not going to be in Baltimore much longer. So we'll kind of see what happens. I hope that in a perfect world, Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews are a package deal and get traded together. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm still just as high on Mark Andrews as ever.
All right, so then how's this one? What if it's Christian Watson and the 107 for Mark Andrews and the 202?
Christian Watson and 107. Yeah, I would do that. Because anything after 106, in my opinion, this year in Superflex leagues, I am less than interest. Like there's a really big drop off for me between 106 and 107 if value doesn't change much by the end of the NFL draft. So trade down, 7 spots to go up from Watson to Andrews. I will take that. It's probably an unpopular opinion, but I will take that.
All right, last one. What about Watson for ETN?
Yes, 1,000% yes. I do think that Jacksonville is going to add some sort of running back competition just to kind of ease ETN's load a bit. But worst case scenario, you're getting a top 15 running back in ETN. Like that's absolute worst case scenario, right? So yeah, give me that all day. But so we've really talked a lot about Christian Watson. I never have anything nice to say about him. I feel bad because I'm sure he's a really good guy. But I don't want him in Dynasty whatsoever. So who is your third and final sell high wide receiver today?
My third and final is a guy named T. Higgins, who I love. I think is a really good receiver. But I mean, I think I'd rather have a lot of the other receivers that are in his tier. I would rather have him and Ross St. Brown or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sorry, see, you got me messing up now. I would rather have probably Devonta Smith in a second. I'd probably rather have even DK Metcalf, Drake London. I'd probably rather have a lot of those guys. I mean, T. Higgins is just never going to be the number one wide receiver in his offense. And I mean, I know that he didn't play in a handful of games this year, so the points per game is a little bit skewed, but I'm just not a fan of buying into him when I don't know. I think Devonta Smith is probably the same receiver, and we saw that he could actually be a low-end wide receiver one this year. And I think I'd rather have him and another piece if I can get that deal. I'd rather have probably the 106 and an extra 2024 pick maybe for T. Higgins. And I mean, there's a lot of other guys that I'd rather have in his tier that I can see that he's going for. So I think those are the moves I'm looking to make because Jamar Chase is always going to dominate this offense, and it doesn't look like T. Higgins he's really going anywhere. So I just don't know how I feel about holding him at wide receiver 9 right now when there's no real signs of improvement. And I don't think that he's going to make any significant leaps moving forward.
I wholeheartedly disagree. And I mean, dude, at this point for me, like the support that I have for T. Higgins in Dynasty, it's getting close to the unwarranted territory, and I will be the first person to admit that. Like, I'm just a big fan of T. Higgins. He's my favorite non-Carolina Panthers wide receiver probably ever. I enjoy watching T. Higgins play. He's a lot of fun to watch. But like you said, Jamar Chase owns this offense, and that's how it's always going to be. The good news is that T. Higgins is almost never matched up against the top corner. And let's face it, when T. Higgins is fully healthy and he's on the field, I mean, dude, he's electric. He's getting you 20 to 25 points nearly every single out there. Plus, like you said, I mean, his points per game, they are skewed a bit because there's 2 games in there. One where he was active, but I don't think took a single snap. And then 2, there was one where he got injured on like the 4th or 5th play of the game. So he does have 2 games working against his points per game average. I think he's like wide receiver 15 or 16 points per game from the 2022 season. I think that bumps up to like 11 or 12 if you factor out those 2 games. But either way, I'm not interested in tearing down from T. Higgins. In fact, I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. If I give up, like guys that are quote unquote higher than T. Higgins are Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Chris Olave. Those are the 4 guys directly above him on Keep Trade Cut. If I could tear down from any 4 of those guys to T. Higgins plus, I'm doing it. So it's just, I don't know. I love T. Higgins, man. I can't sell high on him. And unless you're getting me 102 or 101, I'm not even trading him for a pick in the 2023 class.
I would tear up to him in any of those spots. So I wish that was the case for us in one of our leagues because we could get a deal done really easily, but unfortunately not the case.
Well, you know what? I got something new to try, though, right? Because I have Chris Olave in a 16 team, and I want T. So maybe I'll send out some offers to get T. Higgins plus a little something on top for Chris Olave. I'll put my money where my mouth is there. But all right, so I'll move into my final guy here, and I will fully admit this. I didn't have a third guy until right before this video started. And I don't even know if calling him a sell high candidate is really fair to say because on Keep Trade Cut, he's worth the 204 at best. And it's Mike Evans. The one thing about this, and now I'm kind of second guessing myself because you brought up Cooper Kupp, right? And Cooper Kupp has been more productive from a fantasy perspective than Mike Evans, but not by leaps and bounds, right? Like Mike Evans has been doing it for years. 1,000-yard season after 1,000-yard season, 8 touchdown season after 8 touchdown season. And he's all the way ranked down at wide receiver 41 while Cooper Kupp is all the way up at wide receiver 16. So as I'm saying that, maybe my sell high is actually turning into, I don't want to say a buy low because I don't see many situations where I'm going out to get Mike Evans, but just putting that context together doesn't make sense, right? So I was going to say Mike Evans is a sell high, but now I'm changing my mind. I don't think I would sell him for the 2 unless I'm like firmly in a rebuild. That's where Keep Trade Cut has him. But I will say this. If you're not contending this year, I think it's time to cut your losses with Mike Evans. Like I said, not necessarily a sell high. There's definitely some sort of value discretion there. But Tampa Bay doesn't have a quarterback. They're going to go into the year with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is absolute toxicity for wide receiver ones in fantasy football. Mike Evans is probably about to have his smallest statistical season since he's entered the league. So I don't see any way that his value goes up. The only way that I can see you getting more than maybe even the 202 for Mike Evans is to hold him through the season, pray that Baker Mayfield is either not their quarterback or somehow turns it around and finds a way for Mike Evans to produce. And even still, you're going to have to find someone kind of desperate at the trade deadline to give you more than just the 202 for Mike Evans. So it's not necessarily a sell high, but it's unless you're really using this year, it's kind of time to cut your losses with Mike Evans, I think.
Yeah, I'm probably pretty good just getting rid of Mike Evans as well. I'd take pretty much any pick back to like the 206 probably straight up for him. Just because I know it's an upper half, like a higher half first round pick, and I'd probably just rather take, or a second round pick rather. I'd rather take whoever is going to be on my roster long term, because I don't trust Mike Evans, just like I don't trust Cooper Kupp in the same way. So I guess I kind of do view them in the same light. I can see around here like people are able to get like Amari Cooper for him. I'd rather have Amari Cooper over Mike Evans right now. 100% much better situation. I can see someone here got sent Mike Evans for and an early second round pick for Travis Etienne. That's awesome. Good for them. I'd probably if I can even like tear down to, I guess, like Chris Godwin, if I can get Chris Godwin for Mike Evans, I'd probably rather have that, just to give the Bucks a little bit longer to figure out their quarterback situation. I'd like same thing. I'd rather have a lot of the guys that I'd rather tier up or tier back to a lot of the guys that we talked about before, like the Stephon Diggs, the Tyreek Hills, like whatever price I have to pay to get up to that. Obviously within reason. I'm probably doing that. So yeah, I'm all for selling Mike Evans in a lot of these spots.
Yeah, it's kind of sad when you got to move on from a guy like Mike Evans. Like, I just pulled up statistics: 9 years in a row of 1,000 receiving, and it feels weird saying this, but I don't see any sort of possibility where Mike Evans has more than 1,000 receiving yards this year. His lowest total ever was he had 1,001 yards back in 2017, played the full 16 games. With Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask at quarterback, you never know. Maybe they could address it. Maybe they could be dark horse candidates to trade for Lamar Jackson. Maybe they'll trade up on draft day, right? Trade up with Arizona at number 3. Maybe get Anthony Richardson. That would be really interesting. But I don't see a lot of possibilities where Mike Evans lives up to his name this year, and he still does have the name value. So get out while you can. Just sell ahead of time. Like I said, not a sell high, but it's just time to cut your losses on him, I think. But
yeah, he was pretty much only serviceable in like 6 games last year with Tom Brady still there. So, and then his stats are so skewed. He finished as a wide receiver 17, but that's pretty much because he had that 48-point game at the very end of the year. So I don't think – I think if anybody who's just looking at the blind numbers sees that like he is that consistent, I think I would definitely move off Mike Evans. Sorry if I just ranted there for a sec, but I thought it was
no, you're good. You're good, because half the time I'm just ranting anyway, right? before we like wrap up the video here, Mike Evans is ahead of these guys on Keep Trade Cut. And stop me if you hear a name that you wouldn't trade Mike Evans for, because the next 10 names that I'm going to read to you, I think I would take every single one of them over Mike Evans in a 1-for-1 trade. So you have DeAndre Hopkins. I'm taking Hopkins. You have Elijah Moore, Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton. Those two names kind of make me a little nervous, but
Cortland, I think, is the one that I'd probably rather have Mike Evans over Cortland Sutton, because I don't really believe in Cortland Sutton either.
see, and I completely agree with you on that. I would take Keenan Allen over him just because he still has Justin Herbert, but I probably would sell Cortland Sutton. Then you have Jacoby Myers. I'm taking Myers all day. Tyler Lockett. We love Tyler Lockett. Guy Moore, Gabe Davis, Jalen Hyatt, Juju Schuster, Josh Downs. Like, I'm taking every single one of those guys, aside from Cortland Sutton, in a 1-for-1 over Mike Evans in like pretty much every scenario right now.
100% agree. Yep, every single one of them. I didn't even realize that was the case, but yeah, no question. I'm moving off of it for all of those guys.
Yeah, so maybe there is still a tiny sell high window here, but we'll see. So yeah, if you have Mike Evans, try to trade him away, see what kind of offers you bring in, and don't give him away, but cut those losses. Let's move on. But that's going to do it for us here on Goal Line Dynasty today. So there you have our 6 sell high wide receivers at the moment. If you have any dynasty related questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, whether it's related to these sell high wide receivers or not. We are always happy to answer those questions. If you have any video requests or you have a team review that you'd like us to do, clearly we do those team reviews on this channel and we always enjoy doing them. So feel free to leave that in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And we do also have a Discord for everyone to join. That's where we like to post our team reviews and kind of get those up and running. So, like, subscribe, hit the Discord, all that good stuff. Before we wrap up here, Tyler, any closing remarks?
Trade Mike Evans for a Tyler Lockett and a 2nd-round pick. It's there. Do it.
Yeah, well, I kind of had a feeling bringing up Mike Evans, I would be preaching to the choir with you because I know you hate aging assets anyway. So finding one that we just genuinely agree on, I was like, okay, well, we can end the video on a high note with Mike Evans. But for myself, for Tyler, for Goal Line Dynasty, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.